So without any further talk, I would like to introduce our first speaker. And I am really, really pleased and honored to have with us three distinguished speakers in this very session in the morning. We will start the conference with the first keynote speaker by Dr. Petru Dumitriu. Dr. Petru Dumitriu is an inspector from the Joint Inspection Unit at the United Nations in Geneva. He is the best to explain what is the United Nations Joint Inspection Unit does, but from my very limited knowledge and experience with this unit, I think it's quite an important unit in the United Nations because every year those inspectors who are highly qualified experts. Dr. Petru, similar to us or most of us, he's an academic in the first place. He got a PhD, he's a diplomat. He knows what we know, but beyond that, or more than that, he has been in the public domain more than most of us. So he brings both the academics, the professional, and the global perspective and the experience with government and policy making. And I think that unit in the United Nations is really important because you can see what they are tackling. They produce this report every year. And as Petru himself called it one day, it's a mini PhD. So these reports are actually from the academic evaluation of weighting them. They are more of a PhD, small PhDs. Every year they conduct proper research. We have been very honored to join them in some point to help them with some of the research they have done. But you can see the issues they are tackling. They tackle knowledge management, public-private partnership. They also looked into issues to do with online, the blockchain, and there's many others. And I would really encourage you to go to their website and look at what they are doing. Every year each of the inspector is actually taking one of the issues and he or she is looking at them. And we are very pleased to have him. This is not the first time Petru kindly joined us. He joined us in Bahrain 2017. We also had our conference in Geneva 2018-19. He also joined us in addition to many other engagement with universities, academia. So Petru, the floor is yours. Petru is going to present to us the findings or the results or the report which he authored on behalf of the UN, which is being launched, I think, a month ago. So I will give Petru the opportunity now. Let me unmute you, Petru. So Dr. Petru Dumitriu, it's an honor. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Go ahead and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Allam, colleagues. Thank you very much for the interest in our topic and presentation. I think your introduction covered everything that is important about our collaboration since 2016. I hope that the next collaboration will be a face-to-face meeting wherever in this world. I long for those traditional face-to-face meetings, but of course, for the time being, we have to deal with what is available. Thank you also for the introduction of the Joint Inspection Unit. Yes, I could speak for hours about our unit. It's not the case. I should address the topic, but I invite you to see this unique profile of Joint Inspection Unit in the sense that we have a system-wide competence, and that is very important. We produce very, very balanced reports on all possible issues. We consider ourselves as being a discrete, low colors, but important vehicle for reforming the United Nations system. Now, coming to the topic of this conference, e-learning was just one section of our report on learning in general in the United Nations system. The report was not prepared and conceived in time of the pandemics, but it just happened, as Allam said, it just happened that suddenly the chapter on e-learning became more important because we've been exposed more than in the past to the emerging technologies available. Also, I hope you'll be curious enough to see the report, so I'll not present the report as such. I'll try to present some overall conclusions that have somehow a relevance for you as an academic and practitioner network, in the sense that United Nations system organizations, and GIU is dealing with 28 organizations, is also kind of network we want to be a system. We are not yet 100% a system, but I think some of the lessons and of the arguments on e-learning that I found during my review may also address the needs and the aspiration of World Association for Sustainable Development as a network. And one more precision before I start. I have 10 short points to make, is that our report and my consideration on e-learning do not concern the education in general. I'm not talking about primary school. I'm not talking about high school. I'm not talking about university education. I'm talking about lifelong continuous learning, about post-graduation learning. I'm talking about learning for people who are working. That's the essence of our work, of our report, and that is the essence of the points I'll be doing. The first point, I would define the main points as factors that multiply the importance of e-learning comparative advantages. The first of them is the global presence of the United Nations. So e-learning can offer us this possibility to have interaction on learning everywhere in the world. It's something that was not possible when we had only to use face-to-face courses, which was an expensive process. People have to travel. People have to sacrifice their time to go there. So that is factor number one. Factor number two is the aspiration of the United Nations system to work indeed as a system. So e-learning, it's not the only area that offer that kind of possibility, but e-learning is among those areas that really can serve our aspiration to be always connected to be always in a position to cross-fertilize our work and our mandate. So that is, again, an important factor. The third factor is something that is somehow very characteristic to the United Nations system. We still have this practice of working in silos, and that is determined by the system, by the different let's say, constitutions. We have different governing bodies in our organizations. We have different mandates. We compete for the same resources. So sometimes, I would say too often, we work in silos. We follow our project line, our project aspiration, and we really do not look at each other. E-learning is one of the factors that can bring us together. We have then the fourth factor, the importance. I mean, I didn't put these factors in a specific order, but maybe the most important factor is the holistic vocation of Agenda 2030. I cannot preach to you as a member of the World Association for Sustainable Development to what extent Agenda 2030 is having this holistic, participatory, inclusive vocation. That is something where, again, the e-learning options are helping for us to serve that vocation. Number five, as it is the case for this particular conference, the technologies offer us a possibility to rebuild, to review the partnerships among United Nations organizations, governments, academia, private sector. So these are different factors. Creating partnership, building partnership was always an aspiration for us, but it's better facilitated than ever at this point in time. And e-learning can also serve that in the sense that we will hear from each other, we'll learn from each other more than in the past. Number 6 factor is the resource constraints. I don't know about other areas, but in the United Nations, of course, participating in the face-to-face training courses is quite expensive. People sometimes have to travel. They have to be paid per diem. There are fees to be paid. So participating in face-to-face courses is quite expensive. While there is no intention and no need to replace the face-to-face training events, e-learning helps us in facing this problem of resource constraints. Number 7 is the facilitation of joint knowledge production. So if we interact in e-learning among more than a few actors, if we interact at the global scale, if we include more partners, we are in a position to produce together or to create the premises to produce together joint knowledge. And joint knowledge is something that is very important. It's something that we all own. So we will be more inclined to use that knowledge and more prepared to put that knowledge into practice. Another factor that is quite important, I'm not talking about the traditional university landscape, but for international public servants like those in the United Nations, I found that the personal motivation is very important, and it is more important than ever in the context of the e-learning processes. Why? Because apparently, until the technologies will develop, until we find new ways, plagiarism, cheating, and other ways, to illicitly or immorally get your certificates or diplomas is more possible online than it is in the classroom under the physical supervision of someone, etc. However, I think this is not a problem without a solution, but I see that the common denominator, the key, the silver bullet is the personal motivation. If you really, as a working person, you are interested to acquire new skills, if you are interested to learn more than you have acquired at the end of your formal studies, then this problem won't be a problem. The real key is the personal motivation. And one of the targets of my report was indeed to rebalance the relationship, the responsibilities on learning between the 3 main drivers: the organizations, the learning managers, and the individual staff. Because so far this relationship was a little bit unbalanced, in the sense that the public servants, many of them, they believe that it's up to the organization to give them the best condition, to give them time, to give them resources, etc. Or I would say that if you are really motivated, you can do that on your own. Personally, in the framework of the preparation of this report, I took now I think I have more than 30 courses on online platforms offered by various providers. And it only cost me up to $200 to get a wide range of new knowledge in areas that are specifically related to my professional interests, but also in other areas. Number 10. So in the United Nations, we have this dilemma whether we address our training courses to our staff only or to our member states beneficiary, because after all, we are in the service of the member states and of the public goods. So this is something that is work in progress. I believe that there should be, in most cases, no separation between the kind of learning we offer to the member states and the kind of learning we have to offer to the United Nations staff. And that is because they should share the same vision about the world and having the same knowledge that will have that aspiration. Of course, last, maybe it's more technical, it's more related to our United Nations specificity. We have to, and e-learning offered this possibility to the learning managers to practically monitor the learning effort. Let us suppose that I invest the money of the organization in some programs. I can arrange with a supplier with a learning solution supplier. I can arrange in a way that I could see to what extent my people, the people for whom I pay the tuition fees, they are active, they are performant, they are serious, they are disciplined, they really acquired. So this is acquired knowledge. So this is a very important options that is offered by the e-learning. So these were the 10 points. I would say that altogether, there is a wide variety of options across the world. And the programs that are offered are more and more interesting and interactive. Even in terms of the MOOC, the massive online open courses, where you don't really have an interaction with a tutor or with a mentor, even there things are advancing, and I think that the technology provides solutions to solve this problem. And I would say one of the major problems that it needs still working is the quality of the verification of the knowledge acquired by the staff. I will stop here also by alluding to my report in the section on e-learning. I mentioned the opportunity about which I learned from a conference organized by West in London, and that is the fact that you have technology providers on whose platforms you can develop your own courses. So this is if we have that possibility in an open source way, then sky is the limit for whatever we can produce and offer to our staff. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't exceed the time allocated to me. Thank you. Over to you.
Petru, thank you very, very much. You haven't exceeded your time. Actually, we were prepared to listen to more from you. Very interesting, very exciting, and I think that's a very nice opener. We will continue the session, but I would like to ask you at this point one question, which I asked you before, but it's better to ask you this question again. Now, you do all this fantastic work, and you are in the heart of the United Nations system. Now, how do people like us in academia, for example, in this conference, there's lots of vice chancellors listening to you now, head of department, academia from all over the world. Apart from them, now we alerted and we have been circulating it. Apart from it's available in your website, and apart from people like us circulating it, how this message is getting across to all over the world, if you like, universities, government, how do they learn about this? Do you have any effort, or what is the UN is doing to ensure this fantastic work is actually reaching the normal user on the ground, apart from the UN agencies?
Thank you, Allam. That's a very good question and a tough question, and I couldn't give you a very positive answers. To be honest, the way we saw the life and destiny of the JIU reports was very much domestic, internally oriented. So we put in place a pretty sophisticated system by which we follow the implementations of the recommendations. Partly that information is also available on our website, in the sense that there is a system where the organizations, they are in detail, in the years following the circulation of the reports, they report on how they do that work. But that indeed does not offer a very wide possibilities to the rest of the world to be aware. And obviously, as it was your case when we met the first time in April 2017 in Geneva, you didn't know anything about GIU. It was the knowledge management network that put us together. So I think again the technologies are offering us the possibilities to make our message known across the world. In GIU, we are faced, practically. I don't know how to put it without abandoning my traditional inclination to modesty, but it was the first time when I met you in Geneva on the conference on knowledge management. It was the first time ever in the history of GIU when we had, we opened the doors to the participation from the public. And if you remember, we had more participants from the academia than from other sectors. And in our own conference on the private sector, remember, we had more than 300 participants, and we really touch on segments of the public audience that usually are not touched. So it is difficult with this proliferation of websites. We cannot realistically expect that people will come to see our reports. The only way is to do what we do in our case, and I have other partners identified. For instance, this report will also be shared with the Graduate Institute in Geneva and their network. We talked about it in the forum about diplomatic training. So there are options. On the partnership with the private sector, we went to the International Organization of Employers to present our report. On the policy research, you remember that we cooperated with some networks of academics, and if we touch to those people, and if we manage to raise their interest, and then they will see value in our report. One more point on that, because our reports on learning, on knowledge management, and on policy research. They were called by someone as the GIU knowledge trilogy. I would say that there is already an impact on that, in the sense that for the first time in the history of the United Nations, the Routledge Handbook of the United Nations will have a special chapter dedicated to knowledge management. So that touches very much the sensitive issue that was the object of your question. To me, if there is one common denominator to everything that means interaction and cross-fertilization, is knowledge management. We should find the best ways to share our knowledge and to help the people to identify what is important and what is relevant in the big magma of knowledge that exists on the internet. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Petru, and that's a very interesting start. As I said, let's continue with our two other speakers, and then we'll open the floor for discussion and question and answer. Are you okay for the time, Petru?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, let me move to our second speaker, which is Professor Joseph Ntayi from Uganda. Professor, we are very grateful. Yes, Professor, we are very grateful. We're now going to travel, I don't know how many hours from London, but to Professor Joseph Ntayi from Uganda.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Professor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Professor, I can hear you.
Yes, Professor, let me just say a few words.
Okay.
we are very grateful. And yesterday I sent your video, which you recorded in advance of the conference, to avoid any disturbance today, to one of the ministers of higher education in Africa, no need to mention the name. And I said to the minister, this is a very good example of how academia in Africa are doing their very, very best. And I'm very glad now Petru, the United Nations, is listening to see the first challenges people or countries like in Africa are facing, not to enjoy, in terms of enjoying the benefits and the beauty of the online learning. So Professor Joseph, thank you very much. He recorded a short video yesterday and sent it to us 2 days ago. He said, I am recording this in case the electricity in Uganda will not allow me on the time of broadcast tomorrow on Wednesday, or the internet. This is actually happening across the entire African continent. Issues like electricity, Sudan is a good example, Libya is a good example, and so on, the list will go on. They could easily be deprived from teaching and learning online simply because there is no electricity. This will also issue about bandwidth, internet, and we have always argued without internet, we will not have any of this happening. Professor Joseph Ntayi is the Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Energy. He got a tremendous background. He's a well-respected scholar worldwide. He published quite a lot, and in our own journals, his contribution and his school on his university, Makerere University, which is a well-known university in Africa. His business school in particular is well-known business school in Africa. We are very honored and pleased to have him. He is a distinguished academic. And Professor, I will give you the floor and thank you very much for your time, for your effort. And I hope, and I'm really pleased you're going to present it live, which will demonstrate the beauty of the online. So Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Allam Ahmed, for those nice introductions and for giving me the opportunity to make this presentation. I must say that the conference is timely, and the theme which we are discussing about online learning, the new normal post-COVID-19. Professor, I must say that the world over time has faced many pandemics and many situations that has actually made life very difficult. And in this case, we know very well that, for instance, around 165 AD, I think that's the time when we had the Antonine plague, and that was the smallpox. Moving on to 250 AD, when we had the Cyprian plague, and then we moved on up to 541, we moved on up to 11th century, when we had leprosy, moving on up to 1350, when we had the Black Death, and that happened in Asia, and of course it spread throughout the entire world, up to 1665, when we had the Great Plague of London, and that was the bubonic plague that killed 20% of the population in London. And since then, of course, we've had many other plagues around 1817, moving downwards up to 1980, 1981, actually 1957, when we had the Asian flu, but in 1918, again, we had the Spanish flu, and in 1889, we had the Russian flu. And of course, moving down 2003, we had SARS. 2019, we now have COVID-19, meaning that most likely plagues are supposed to, or not supposed to, but plagues are around the corner. So you never know, maybe even the next 20 years or 15 years, you're likely to have another. Now that has implications in the education sector, especially for us who are delivering courses, who are delivering lectures. So that means we must actually move very, very fast and ensure that we innovate or probably die. Now, we know very well, Professor and ladies and gentlemen or delegates, if we begin talking about the reality of things, we know that historically teachers, we are trained to operate mostly in the traditional classroom setting. And we know that And of course, amidst these pandemics, and that's what is happening. So that means that we really have to rethink the kind of training that we received about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, to be able to catch up with the changes that we see in the environment that are very rapid and very dynamic. Of course, we also know that with the increase in demand for education, especially for people who wanted to learn many new things, as Dr. Dumitriu has just even indicated that, they favor online learning because of the costs involved. But in this case, the desire drove various universities and colleges to go online and start delivering distance education courses. So we see a number of generations in this case. The first generation, which is actually the correspondence generation, and this is where printed material was produced and probably delivered to the learners. Went through the second generation, and this was common in the 1950s. And of course, here the use of televisions and radio technologies were used to deliver courses. And then we moved to the third generation, and that was the tele-learning model. And this was common in the 1980s with video conferencing. And video conferencing was majorly used to deliver courses up to the fourth generation. And that's the flexible learning model, where students were enabled to learn from anywhere, from any part of the world, and anytime, and learning at their own pace. And of course, here social interaction again was somehow enabled, and collaborated learning was also introduced, and of course with the computer-supported collaborative learning systems and software, and of course situated learning also coming on board. Now the fifth generation had to utilize all those other things that I've talked about, the ideas developed in the first generation, second, third, and fourth, so as to leverage the use of the web and of course the internet. And since then, I remember in your opening remarks, you said that the issue is not about developing new technologies now, but looking around to see what is available and utilizing what is available more efficiently and more effectively. Professor, the reality of things on the ground, if we start talking about Uganda, amidst these generations that I've just talked about, and amidst the plagues that have hit the entire world, education institutions, especially in my country, have largely used the face-to-face approach, and more specifically the talk and talk approach. But even if you said that, whiteboards do exist, I mean, still you need a lecturer and probably a facilitator in class to deliver content to the learners. And as you can see, prior to what happened in Uganda on March the 20th, the closure of educational institutions, about 98% of our education institutions were offering education using the traditional classroom setting. So we actually caught off guard, but I also know that the 2% that I've really talked about what is constituted by virtual learning, and this was for courses that were being delivered by probably in collaboration with the institutions which are abroad in the US, in the UK, and more specifically for probably professional courses, talk about SIM, SIP-CPA, and so forth. And so even when we try to develop the distance learning mode of education and delivery, face-to-face is still part of that distance learning, and even the printing, first of all, development of material and delivery of the material, and video recordings, and so forth. So we see that around 20th March, when lockdown was introduced, schools were closed, and this locked out about 15 million learners with no certainty when the education institutions will reopen, because we are told that the vaccine is not yet available and nobody actually knows what is happening. But recently, around 15th of October, government actually decided to allow higher institutions of learning and also secondary schools and primary schools to reopen for only candidate students. And the candidate students constitute about 1.2%, meaning that out of the 15 million learners who are locked out, we still have 13.8 learners locked out, and they are in their homes, and probably they are even wondering what's likely to happen. And so many things have actually happened to those learners because we know the kind of environment where we operate is very complex. And the learners who are locked out in their homes and in the other places have not been really allowed to transit from that situation they were in prior to the closure up to probably where they should receive virtual learning or online learning, although we are struggling in that direction. So this really means a lot in terms of education transitions, because first of all, we see different generations, and we also see that when we really had that traditional approach of delivery in class, which is face-to-face, we now have to move to online training, and that's really transition, which needs some kind of guidance and of course, assistance in one way or the other. So we see that education institutions are now faced with so many things that are happening very, very rapidly in terms of speed. So the rate at which new opportunities emerge from the environment, although you said that you do not see the advantage of this pandemic, but the software developers and the people who have now come up with the sanitizers and so forth, for them, they look at it as entrepreneurship. So they're actually in business. But all the same, amidst all these educational institutions are a little bit strained. And this strain is within the institutions, and the environment is also pressing so hard amidst declining resources and greater expectations from the stakeholders outside there. So the implication here is that these educational institutions, whether universities or colleges and so forth, must be agile. They must move very, very fast to try and cope up with the changes in the rapid environment. And of course, meaning that curriculum has to be adapted to the environment, which is actually online learning. And of course, we must create enabling conditions that will motivate and stimulate some bit of passion and learning, and also cooperation among the institutions that are delivering service or training to the various clients. And all of these aspects that I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, are presented in that conceptual model, as you can see it, with a number of aspects that we have picked from complexity theory. So we are using complexity theory to try and explain the position at which the higher institutions and probably other training institutions are at, and attempt to probably come up with some kind of guidance as to whether government should try to do something to help these organizations adapt in the rapidly changing environment. So as I've already said, as you can see from our model, we want to achieve lifelong learning, and that's what we have this other side. But that again, it requires innovations in the curriculum. I've already talked about that, the process of delivering the courses, the technology that we are currently using, of course, after looking at what's available. And this has implications for resources. I know that many countries worldwide are affected economically, so they may not have sufficient resources to support these things. And even education may not be a priority for some institutions, for some governments. But I think you can see those resources and the collaboration that is required, and meaning that these organizations must learn from what is happening in the environment, and then also encourage a number of things to happen within the institutions, innovations, communication, and so forth, and then adapt within the system. But we also see that these aspects that we are talking about are really affected by the dynamism of the environment, which I've already talked about, and the COVID-19 pandemic-induced shocks. We see this happening. For instance, if you look at research that has been done in Uganda, you'll discover that there's been increased violence against children. Dropout rates have are actually very high now. We are talking about 60, between actually 50 and 60% drop out, because we see this in the candidate classes where learners were allowed to report back and receive education. So most institutions have received around 40% figures, up to 50%. That means they're doing very well, but others are locked out, meaning that they will not sit their final year examinations, and that's really unfortunate. So all these things, including now child pregnancies, is really an aspect that we see. Increased child labor, and this is very common in Africa now. All these have certainly impacted on these young people who are out, and they have probably little hope. They are faced with uncertainty, and right now we are coming up with probably virtual learning. And you see, you are introducing virtual learning to a population that is already traumatized, meaning that we really have to support these fellows. I will not go through the methodology in the interest of time, but what we've done, because this is really an ongoing study, which is really very big, and we started with the qualitative, as you can see. So we are actually using sequential exploratory research design, where we start with the qualitative, then design the instrument. We have already done this, by the way, and we have collected data, and we have done the analysis. And some of the ideas I'm sharing here are from the qualitative study, but we are now collecting the quantitative data. Now, some of the aspects that we see here with some kind of certainty, we see that over 80%, actually a very big figure here, of our school-age children and youth live in rural areas. So even when you have a school in the urban setting or sector, or even a university, the people who are going to join are coming from rural areas. And these areas are deprived of digital, educational, and supporting infrastructure. And of course, they live, the poverty levels are very high in those rural areas. So if you start talking about digital infrastructure, and you want these fellows to have laptops, you want them to access internet and so forth, it becomes a little bit hard. So keeping these children in that learning mode during and after COVID-19 pandemic crisis will not be very easy. And that's why I did say that child pregnancies are now very common. And some of the young men have actually started, well, they have joined business, and getting them out of that is not very easy. Now, the other issue that we have seen from our qualitative data is an element that is related to the sense of agency, right? The teachers, for instance, the lecturers and some of the professors, they really feel that if virtual learning is introduced 100%, then this kind of thing is disempowering. So they will not really have that control to monitor the learners, to be able to know what they are doing, and that kind of thing. But this means that we really have to do something to change the mindset of the trainers, and the government is trying to do something in this direction. The second thing, which is again related to the first aspect that I did mention, that 80% of our learners are in the rural areas, is the technological innovations and the digital divide. Now, that tells you that if those fellows are at the other side, they are in their own world. So if you start introducing these things this other side, the fellows may be left out, and they may not really cope up with the changes. But I must say that government of Uganda has tried to do something in this direction. They are now investing in sustainable infrastructure and of course ICT-related innovations in teaching practices. In the national colleges, this project is ongoing, and what they have done is to teach the trainers, those who are going to teach learners in secondary education, how to use things like Zoom, Google Classrooms, and so forth. And of course, meaning that something is being done by government. But all the same, you can see that amidst this, the primary school teachers and the lower level primary, that is nursery, and these other infant classes are not catered for. Even universities and probably other colleges are not catered for. And yet, when we talk about learning in a country like Uganda, you are not only talking about those students who have enrolled in public institutions. We have very many private universities, private secondary schools, and private primary schools, and so forth. So meaning that government must come up with some kind of a program that will cater for those ones who belong to the private sector as well. So I think you can see government has also come up with the content in terms of notes and so forth. And they have set up, they've actually bought radios and televisions to be given to communities so that they can actually attend classes on certain days. But I must say that in villages where you don't even have electricity, I don't even know how those learners will access these television courses or lectures. So it will be very, very hard. Now, of course, added to that is the issue of financing. I've already talked about it. Financing, we are talking about inadequate financing at all levels, by the way, private secondary schools and government funded institutions are also facing that challenge, as you can see. Now, let me move to the other aspect, which is that of virtual learning. I've already talked about these things earlier on, but I just want to emphasize a few aspects here. Online and digital learning in Uganda is still held back by a number of factors, as you can see. Low computer literacy levels, technological divide that learners must have all these things is also very high. And by the way, a survey that was conducted by the Uganda Communications Commission indicated that only 9.5 of the households in Uganda own laptop, right, or a computer. And even those who own computers and laptops do not have the time for their children, and yet these students can learn better when they are guided. Other things that are still missing, curriculum has not been reviewed to be supported by online learning. Teachers, parents, and students are not sufficiently skilled because we need to teach also the parents, because they are the ones with the children and they must know how to deliver. And as you can see, we've got also leadership challenges there. In institutions that already exist, they cannot really be assertive to deliver all those things. Now, I'm aware, Professor, that my time has run out, but those are the major issues that I really wanted to talk about. And in conclusion, I can say that government has a very big job in terms of supporting the post-COVID-19 teaching and learning transition, as highlighted by those things. First of all, we need to build the resilience of the learners, resilience of the institutions in terms of infrastructure, in terms of access to ICT. Financial incentives are required and needed. And of course, we need also to consider providing a COVID-19 relief fund to education institutions and SMEs. So when you say is Uganda ready, I can say we are not yet ready, but we are moving into that direction. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you very much, Professor Joseph. Thank you very much. I think you stick to the time. You haven't exceeded your time. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think that's a very, very good talk, and I'm very glad this just came for Petru, who is watching us here as well, and all of you. So we see the challenges and opportunities as Professor Joseph explained. I will come to the questions definitely, and I can see that there's already people are very keen to give the question, but let me complement that picture. We have now looked into a very good case study from Africa. Let's go all the way to Indonesia. And I'm also honored, I'm very pleased to invite Professor Mohammed Surur, who is the Vice Rector of the University of Airlangga in Surabaya in Indonesia for digitalization, internationalization. And these are two important topics, internationalization and digitalization. So he is the Vice Rector for those two important, very important topics. He's a medical doctor. He's also a well-distinguished scholar. He published and he has led many good health, public health research projects. He can talk to us. Yes, he's coming from science and medical background, but also he has tremendous experience worldwide, not just in publishing and being an author or an editor, but leading really serious research project. But the University of Airlangga, I'm sure he will speak better. I'm not here to, I cannot talk better about his university but it's one of the leading universities in Indonesia. And I think Indonesia is a country with a large number of universities. As far as I know, when I visited, it's more than 4,000 universities.
Yes.
And the University of Airlangga, I think, is one of the top 5. I think number 4 or 5, I'm not sure.
Yes.
But more importantly, what I was so impressed, and that's why I keep arguing when I go to meetings in America or in the UK or in the UN, there are universities in Africa or in developing countries like in Indonesia, their global ranking is higher than our British universities here ranking. So that can give you the idea of how people are working very hard. So the Airlangga University ranking in the global ranking is higher than several universities in the United Kingdom. So I will give you the floor, Professor. We're going to share with us the experience of such a top-class university. Is far away. I'm not saying by far away you are out of the world, but we have far away in terms of distance-wise. And thank you very much. I know it's too late there now. I don't know what time now, but I know it's evening. So the floor is yours. I already made you a host co-chair, so you can share. Can you share your slide, Professor?
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Allam. I will share my slide. Could you see my slide?
Yes, just use the big show now. Yes,
okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good night, good in here, 5 p.m., 6 p.m. recently. A very warm greeting to all of you at the World Association Sustainable Development Conference this Wednesday. It is a great pleasure for Universitas Airlangga, Indonesia, to be able to participate in this conference with researchers, policymakers, educators, consultants, and also employers from around the world to exchange knowledge and experience, as well as discussing recent developments and current challenges, especially pertaining COVID-19 pandemic. Today, I would like to highlight these 2 points. First, I will deliver a brief introduction about our institution, and I will explain afterwards about the challenge that our institution has faced due to the pandemics. As a comprehensive university, Universitas Airlangga is comprised of 14 faculties and 2 schools with a total of 173 study programs across the world, across different campuses. And our study programs range from medical and health science, life science, technological science, as well as social and humanities science. With 39,197 students, Universitas Airlangga is supported with 1,930 lecturers per September 2020 and 2,085 administrative staff, and we are truly committed to increase their well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure our administration system meets the standards, we have established what we name the Airlangga Integrated Management System, or also known as AIMS. Our quality assurance board monitor the results and performance of all work units through establishing an up-to-date procedure guideline in all areas. Most of the study programs in Universitas Airlangga are accredited A by our national accreditation body. However, Universitas Airlangga always encourages its faculties to improve the quality of education by conducting international accreditation as well. We have several numbers of international accreditation already, such as IWA, Malcolm Baldrige, and also ISO. And also, based on the QS World University Ranking 2020, among esteemed universities in the world, Universitas Airlangga is ranked 521 to 530 worldwide and 171 in Asia. Whereas in Indonesia, Airlangga is considered as number 4, in addition to our subject, medicine and business and management studies are ranked in 551 to 600 and 551 to 500 respectively in the world. They are a reflection of our continuous endeavor to strive for quality improvement. And moreover, Time Higher Education Impact Ranking Airlangga has been ranked in 301 to 400 in the world. With regard to supporting sustainability and green campus, UNER, our Airlangga, aims to improve itself in ensure green practice with its campus as well as within all aspects of campus life. At the moment, Airlangga is ranked 255 in University Indonesian Green Matrix. Ladies and gentlemen, Universitas Airlangga has a vast network of partnership on both national and international levels, as well as global consortiums. On international level, our active partnerships are comprised of more than 200 partnerships globally. And for its global networks, Universitas Airlangga is involved in several collaborations. And the partnership take many forms, such as human resource recruitment, joint research, student, lecturer, and also STEM exchange, including double degree and many other forms of mutual collaboration. I would like to introduce the Academic Health Science Institute as a model for interprofessional education and services Universitas Airlangga. Academic health system, or we call AHS, is an organizational network that consists of medical, and health faculties, teaching hospital, research institutes, private sectors, and also local government. AHS become part of health education system integration to provide the best health outcomes to society through health education and also translational research that will impact the continuous quality improvement for healthcare. With the help of the agencies, institutions, organizations, and donors, Universitas Airlangga Alumni Association also present Universitas Airlangga Floating Hospital, and as an additional to service for medical care. Satria Airlangga, the name of Universitas Airlangga Floating Hospital, was initiated by colleagues from our Faculty of Medicine and its Alumni Association to help and complement health services from the government, especially for the remote islands. Now, then we move on the second highlight. I would like to underline some aspect regarding the barriers or challenges that our university has to go through, and I believe that other higher education institutions has been preoccupied with the same situation as well. Here I will list all the Universitas Airlangga's effort in trying to cope with the new normal in post-COVID-19 area. During the pandemic, concern about health issues have become more intense than ever. In a way, this is actually good because everyone is certainly become more aware and caring. However, at the same time, this creates challenges, in which there is no more direct interaction amongst people, and it eventually leads to limited physical mobility. This requires university to think out of the box to innovate how university can still achieve its target despite the limitation. Of course, we have a crisis. So in trying to cope, we are focusing on the three pillars of education, which including research, education, and community development. Since we are focusing on coping in the era of post-COVID-19, we redirect most of our researchers towards the relevant study. Time of crisis also call for innovations, and most of our existing programs have been based on credit earning and also or credit transfers, or most of them are infused with the cultural STEM activities. With everything now converted online, we focus on improving virtual engagement and try to find our way around virtually designed programs. Ladies and gentlemen, Universitas Airlangga has research center, hospital, animal center, and which most had been shut down as the impact of COVID-19. With the most of our experiment facilities being shut down, we are focusing on research. We do not involve any sorts of experiments, thus does not require researcher to actually come into the lab. On the following slides, I will show a list of UNER researchers through 2020, which have been all directed on COVID-19 topic. It is the first that this research focus on observes the correlation between meat consumptions and the number of COVID-19 cases, then comparing in the case US and also China. This study shows the high number of mutton imports is actually related to the reduction number of active cases in both of countries. And the next, this research focus on observing the relation between trends and information about death, the reason that caused the trends, and as well as its benefit to COVID-19 case in sample of the study. And the study shows that such trend is indeed more popular in Saudi, mostly due to the cultural and religious ties. And this is the research focusing on serology methods of COVID-19 screening and diagnosis method in developing countries. This research figures of the order for serology methods being considered as an effective screening and diagnostic methods to detected targets should be either antigen or antibody. And it should be underlined that antibodies have higher sensitivity. The time of the sample collection and the specimen type also determine the efficiency of such tests. And also the next, this is the research focus on how social media has been utilized as a tool to seek social support and the accessibility of such platform to be able to connect people and share information in times about pandemic. It is the very interesting research that 4 variables will affect psychosocial burden amongst community in Indonesia, which consists of age, gender, education, and employment. And the next is the research is trying to delve deeper into the various aspects of the asymptomatic cases, since such understanding will be the main consideration when it comes to the formulation better national health policies, especially in Indonesia. And maybe this is the last, is the researchers focus on the risk factors contributing the psychological impact, which include age, gender, education, background, economic, support system, health, whereas social stigma is mostly affected by environmental factors, medical history, discrimination, self-isolation, as well as people perceptions. I'm sorry, this is actually the last research is studied about the new mathematical methods. It is very interesting. How for the dynamic of COVID-19 with quarantine and also isolation, and further shows how fractal fractional order model provides the best fitting to the reported case. And this is the situation before COVID-19, that collaboration in conducting China's teacher training in workshop, and also Airlangga hosted Taiwan Higher Education Fair, and collaboration in Airlangga in Global Day as exhibitors and sharing session study in Taiwan. But after that, we changed of the situation after COVID-19, collaboration in conducting Chinese teacher training by workshop online, also webinar with expert in specific academic with nanotechnology with TechSeed, and also online storytelling competitions on Airlangga Global Day, also by online. It is of course it will become the in the future many workshop and many modification due to the COVID-19 will become our priority. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we hope one of the earliest creative online program initiation this year. We call is COP or COP, where students participated in a community development-based activity and had to propose alternative to real-life case presented throughout the program. With this slide, I will also inviting you all to join with us about community outreach program. And this year, COP, in the third COP actually ever held and become the first online. It is our first online because due to pandemic, community outreach program that Airlangga has conducted under the Asia Uninet framework. For this year in particular, COP was designed around real-life case of stunting, and with the aim of trying to upload the prevailing SDGs. COP opted to have stunting prevention acceleration as theme. The program involved both students and also academic staff to team up together to find the best solution to stunting problems in Indonesia in particular. And then they spent almost a week exploring the issue with Indonesian local head communities. Very interesting. And also before COVID-19, we had Bahasa Indonesia language class for students. Please join with us, including beginner and also intermediate level. Training for trainers for Indonesian language lecturers for teaching in beginner level, and we even send Airlangga books collection about Indonesia in multiple perspectives. But during COVID-19, we reformatted our learning Bahasa Indonesia program for international students from face-to-face activities to an online program, where aside from learning Bahasa Indonesia, students can also share their knowledge on Indonesian culture and gain more insight about Indonesian culture. We also got to conduct a webinar for international students, inviting international alumni to be guest speaker in sharing session about study during pandemic. And some of the recent webinars have also talked about global academic mobility, and we focus on trying to build a sustainable global academic cooperation frameworks regardless of limitation. And before COVID-19, we held guest lecture, actually series for international students, talking about particular academic subjects and were delivered by Universitas Airlangga academics. In the post-COVID-19, we tried change. We held a series of online global classroom delivered by Universitas academics. And since everything was conducted online, we had the opportunity to explore a wider range of academic subjects, albeit remotely. Such as here, we have like a psychology class, which talk about how to maintain the mental health during a pandemic. A part of student-oriented programs, our educational sector also focuses on trying to engage our global partners steadily through several global scholars program. We invite you all to join what we call Dekota or video conferencing with Universitas Airlangga program. You can propose the topics and also propose what call, and we can make a special conference for you with Airlangga Global Engagement, and we invite your distinguished scholars to teach or to provide guest lectures, albeit online. And apart from teaching-based Airlangga Global Engagement, also introduced we call APD. I also invite you as Airlangga Postdoctoral Fellowship Program. This is postdoc by online, which invites academic to conduct research activity with our prominent professor or researchers. Both Dekota and APD here opens throughout the years, and we welcome any of you to participate in our programs. Engaging the academic peers is also one way to cope with the post-COVID-19 era, and with regards to 3 pillars of education, academic peers easily become the most sustainable partnership hub in times of struggling to keep up with this new phase called new normal. And this is additionally, we also trying to expand our networking chain from various virtual exhibition, where we can engage with potential partners for potential collaboration. We've participated in the virtual KS, SFS, and KS Maple this year, and we are going to join KS Maple on upcoming November 25 until 26, 2020. We hope you are joined in this meeting, and we are also preparing our very first virtual exhibitions, which is going to be part of our institution anniversary next month. This virtual exhibition, namely AGD, is now called for contributors, and we welcome for all our partners to participate. Please join with us. And coping with the new normal also means combining every available resources with the implementation of interprofessional education. We are combining academic activities, research activities, as well as community development in one setting. And to overcome the physical mobility limitation, the interprofessional education is being conducted virtually. It is very interesting, the first for us. And from the academic activities, we compile and formulate the curriculum setting, which include active course on interprofessional education. In terms of research activities, we have interprofession education module for social topics on urban, and also digitalization and pollution, ecotourism, and leadership. And whereas the implementation of community development activities is mostly conducted in community settings, And the implementation of interprofessional education is basically part of how we design our future programs and collaboration. I think it is our last slide. Coping with the era of post-COVID-19 means directing our university to be an HPU, or health promoting university. This same will involve 5 components to be well considered about, from the commitment and policies of university leaders, of course, which in turn shall provide the baseline for social and physical environment, which support healthy behavior and result in healthy staff as well as healthy university student. And we are also considering our teaching and learning activities, research activities as well, to be more in tune with the current health and safety protocol. And we are putting more focus on supporting and improving the individual's wellness in our campus. Thank you, Professor Allam. This is our picture, our hospital during pandemic 19. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Miftahussurur. That's an excellent presentation, and I'm very pleased. This is a very good, I know it's evening there. I keep talking about the morning here in London, but it's a very good start of our day here, or maybe the end of your day somewhere there. But it's very good to see these 3 perspectives. There are more case studies we will see. We're going to listen to Botswana, we're going to see India, Sudan, Bahrain, Turkey, and we will go to Canada and also the UK. We have a very good European projects going to be presented, and we're going to listen to Sudan and so on. But I'm going to open it for questions. I'm going to unmute all of you so that you don't need me to unmute you one by one. But I will ask you kindly, if you could, when I unmute all of you, the questions for the 3 speakers, distinguished speaker, Dr. Petru, and Professor Joseph, and Dr. Muhammad. So if you want to ask a question, there's something on the bottom on your screen called reactions. Just raise your hand and I will give you the floor. Please kindly do not start to speak before we give you the space or the opportunity, so we can discipline because we are recording this. So the questions are, I'm opening it for everyone now. On the efforts of COVID, the people physics is threatening. Kindly advise on how your model. I will come back to this one, Professor Joseph. So any question? I'm just trying to look. Please let me unmute all of you, first of all. So you are all unmuted now, so you can all talk now. So you just have to click on your speakers in your mobile. But from my side, I have unmuted all of you. So any question? I'm trying to look at all of you. Please accept my apology if I'm trying to see all of you here. Any question? I have to follow all of you. Can you?
Professor Allam?
Yes, go ahead.
May I try to answer Professor Ntayi about the...
Okay, you can go. You go ahead with that question. Yes. So the question is, he said, Professor Ntayi said, research on the efforts of COVID-19 on people psychosis is threatening. Kindly advise on how your model can be used to restore their health and well-being. Go ahead, doctor.
Yes. Actually, thank you, Professor Allam, that actually Indonesia have a very wide COVID-19 infection, and this study actually very interesting because they make a distributing online survey to Indonesian citizens in 8 days actually, from June 6 to until 13. And the final number of respondents was 8,031 respondents. And they tried to find what kind of the variables associated with the community psychosocial burden or anxiety level during the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia. And after they have like 5 questions, including how you're feeling on social relationship, how would you describe your feeling in your economic situation? And they have the score 1, 2 to 5, and the 5 is very worried, and one is not significantly worried. And also they try to find the what kind of the variables that really associated with the anxiety. And finally they find that the age, also gender, education, and also employment is the most factors and influence to the anxiety during COVID-19. And they give the recommendation to Indonesian government to develop mental health programs. Actually, we are, although I'm an internal medicine doctor, maybe sometimes I forget that the COVID-19 also make mental health problem. So they suggest to our government, please develop mental health programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. And with this suggestion, our university now make a special team to focus on the developmental program for all over our country. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other question? Any question? You all unmuted now, so you can ask your question.
May I, Allam?
Yes, go ahead, Petru.
I don't have a question, but I noticed on the chat a kind of question from Professor Ntayi. So I'd like to respond. You know, the United Nations is a big thing. It's everywhere. It's headquarters, many more than 50 entities. But to get in to really enter into some partnership, as Professor Ntayi suggested, you know, one should address the United Nations family in the respective country. In Indonesia, there is a powerful and important country team. We call it country team in the sense that many United Nations organizations are present. So I would suggest that the first step is to be done by contacting this country team, because they are more aware of what are the needs of the country and what are the points of interference between the energy programs of the university, of any other programs, and the priorities of the country team. And they can explore together possibilities for partnership. In principle, all these country teams should be open to partnership in the countries they serve. Over to you.
Because I read that question and I wanted to add to it, is that we will share with you, they have their website, the Joint Inspection Unit, but as Petru said, the UN got different agencies, and these agencies are spread in each country they have. So for example, in each country, you'll find the UNDP, WHO, and so on and so forth. We were supposed to be in Kenya last year for the UNEB, but because of issues to do with safety and so on, we couldn't go there. Now, that leads the question, there's a question here from the Facebook about how, it says, are you guys, why you are not collaborating? I don't know why the question, assuming we are not collaborating. We are collaborating, because here we got Queen Mary, we got Airlangga, we got Sudan, we got the UN, we got IHAB, Westminster, so we are collaborating. But just a question to enlarge on this, to what extent do you guys, the question is, why are you guys not collaborating? Anyone would like to address this question, not just really the speakers, but are we collaborating in Indonesia or in Asia, or do we collaborate as African with Asian, with European? Anyone would like to come here, any of the new faces? I know we will hear two different case studies coming on, but the question addressed to academia, why we are not collaborating? Does this collaboration really has to be between the UK or Europeans and say Asian and African, or it has to be a multi-collaboration? So one of the advantage we're going to do, and we have been doing, is to bring people from different background. I can see in front of me, just from one screenshot, social scientists, medicals, engineers, and so on, economists, and then organizational behavior like Motsami from Botswana and so on. But also, we need to collaborate as universities, Indonesia, with Uganda, and so on. So anyone would like to talk about this? We did talk about this in our conference a couple of years in 2014 in Canada, international collaboration to learn from each other. Anyone would like to come here? Yes, Isra, Dr. Isra from Bahrain. If you can introduce anyone, please introduce yourself if you have not spoken. Go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Allam. Of course, I'm representing Ahliya University in the Kingdom of Bahrain. We as university, we were established in 2001. We are a private university, and we have established a couple of collaborations with universities across the world. We have collaboration with universities in the UK, in the US, and also in France. And we are now extending our collaboration with other universities from India, etc. So our collaboration is not only restricted to research, it is handling different methods, different operations. We have collaborations that is related to academic standards, to hosting programs, and also we are collaborating in other means like benchmarking and validating our quality standards, and it is across different levels. So we do collaborate, and I believe this aspect is now much more mature because different universities from different parts of the world are open to collaboration. It's just a matter of we as institutions, how do we approach them, and how do we show mutual benefits, and how do we also open the door for the collaboration. So I think it's open and everyone is welcoming for it. So I hope that's kind of positive.
Thank you very much, Dr. Isra. Any other comments or any question? Yes, Professor Farida, go ahead.
Hello. I think people do collaborate.
Just introduce yourself, Professor, sorry.
Okay. So my name is Farida Fortune. I'm a professor from Queen Mary University of London. What I'd like to say that the collaboration, it's much wider than people know, and it extends, like a spider's web. But I do think that conferences like the one you're having today gives, and you have had in the past few years, and that's really single-mindedly been masterminded by you, Prof. Allam, has led to huge opportunities of new partnerships. Because when you have conferences like you have today, it's like-minded people, and I think you always need to have that personal contact and the personal alignment to go ahead. So I do think that what you're doing today will make that even better.
Thank you very much, Professor Farida. And I think one thing I also would like to encourage you, those who submitted their papers, all this, I mean, we got the paper, I think, from Brazil, from Uganda, from Ron and Alexandra, and I think Motsami, from all these papers, we will put them, and we have from India. So we will definitely try to multiply the networking. This is exactly the beauty of what we're doing. And I will, as I said, we would like you to encourage you to go and continue collaborating. And it's really great to reach people and to see them and engage. And that's why we ask you for the social media, so for the WhatsApp, so that we can build up. And let's satisfy our research, RIE, and all that exercise by publishing and so on. But at the same time, we need to work it out. Professor Ntayi, I think you want to say something.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Allam. I just want to respond to the question that has been raised about collaboration. And I want to say that in Uganda, we are actually working on that, and we've been working on it for quite some time. As a colleague has already indicated, we have collaborated on training programs. For instance, right now we are working with the ministry. We're actually working with the prisons because we actually go to the prisons and deliver our courses there to the inmates. And I think we've been doing this for the last 6 or 7 years, and that is a collaboration. We've been collaborating with the Army in the area of logistics, transportation, and management science in general. And we've got a very good feedback from there. We have collaborated with the other economic institutions like Ministry of Planning and other areas because we've got an outreach center in my faculty, Faculty of Economics, Energy and Management Sciences, and we call it the Economic Forum. And we've been dealing with issues of budgeting, issues of development, issues of local economic development, and so forth, and we've been collaborating. We also have a number of outreach centers, like the ICT Center. We've got the Leadership Center. We've been collaborating with the leaders of this country, the politicians, and so forth. In the area of entrepreneurship, we have also collaborated with the various ministries in charge of that particular aspect, the President's Office, and also the small and medium enterprises, Uganda Manufacturing Association. We also have a number of other things. We've got the Disability Center as well. We reach out to those people in that particular aspect. I think we've done that. We've got local collaborations and the international collaborations in terms of delivery of programs or quality programs. That's what I wanted to add, Professor. And certainly given what we've just gone through here, again, we are going to go out and deliver the message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And I think I really re-emphasize the importance of this collaboration. And I am not here, but we should support every good work is happening, not just necessarily by universities specific we know, but and the UN. But I have seen the UN is really open and listening. And as I said in my introduction, Petru, he's an academic, like the first place before he became a minister, and he represents his country. And people are willing to listen to us as academia, but not just academia. I know most of you here, you are a genuinely good people, want to collaborate. I've been to Turkey and I met Dr. Ahmed, he will speak shortly. I have been to Indonesia, and I know how much all of you are very keen. In the afternoon, together with Alexandra, we have Ron McQueen, who we even traveled many. He's one of the founders of this organization. I know you, Frida. All of you are genuinely great people, want to collaborate internationally. Joseph, you have contributed massively. Motsami from Botswana. We have other professors from Botswana. Let's just cultivate this and move to a new dimensions and new approaches. I am quite wise. I'm very excited. I'm quite wise of the time. It's 11 minutes past 11, so we just 10 minutes above our time. But I think we are doing well. Not too much of overlap. But particularly, we had fantastic speakers, and we also managed to go from London to Indonesia. I have been traveling all my days. So the fact we managed to go to Indonesia, to go to Uganda, I think that's remarkable in 1.5 hours, and that's the beauty of the online. I would like to make a short break. It's 12 minutes past 11. So that means we will come back. Shall we make it 25 past 11, coming back to the next session? If that's okay good with all of you?
Yeah.
So our chair is here, Dr. Ihab Tawfiq. Ihab is one of the founders of WAST. It will be a pleasure to have you, Ihab. And I think we're going to have a short break, 15 minutes. We will meet at 25 past 11 London time, but generally it's 15 minutes. Can I ask you all to join me? I know from wherever you are, to just appreciate this excellent speaker in the morning, Dr. Petru Dumitriu from Geneva, and Professor Joseph Ntayi from Uganda, and Dr. Muhammad Miftahussurur from Indonesia. Thank you very much. It was been excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we will stop here. We will see you in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you shortly.
See you then.
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.